Hello everyone and welcome to video 1 of our chapter 11 study guide. Just a quick reminder that you will be given the formulas that are listed at the top. Given each of the surface area and volume formulas below, fill in what each variable stands for. So while you will be given the formulas, this top section, you will be responsible for knowing what they mean. And so this top section will be given, but you need to know which each variable stands for. So the first thing you're going to do on your study guide is fill in those things. I have that listed here. You can read over that. You can review that. But we're going to go ahead and get started with question 1. And so the first set of directions says to identify each figure first, which just means to name it. Naming it is going to help you pick the proper formula that goes with it. Solve for the surface area and volume. For the prisms and the cylinders, we are going to, let's go ahead and highlight this. For the prisms and pyramids, we're going to round the final answers to the nearest tenth. For the cylinders, we're going to, and cones and spheres, leave in terms of pi. So another way to say that is if it has a pi in the formula, you're going to leave your answer in terms of pi. If it's got a circle in the shape or if it's a sphere, you're going to leave your answer in terms of pi. And so the very first one, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to name the shapes. So let's look at we've got our different shapes. We've got prisms, cylinders, pyramids, cones, and spheres. If it is a prism or a pyramid, you have to name the shape of the base as well. So like for cylinder and cone, you don't have to say a circular cone or a circular cylinder. We know that those are always circles. Spheres don't have bases, so that's just one word. But if you say pyramid or if you say prism, you have to say the name of the base. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this first one. What shape is this? What has two bases? I know the only two shapes that have two bases are cylinders and prisms. But because these are not circular bases, I know that it's going to be a prism. So what type of prism is this? This is going to be a rectangular prism. Why is this a rectangular prism and not a square prism? Because that is a 7 by 5 rectangle and not a 5 by 5 or a 7 by 7. So this is a rectangular prism. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down my formula for surface area. So the surface area of a prism is pH plus 2b. So let's go ahead and find that. Surface area equals pH plus 2b. So it's all about the base. So when we say P, we're talking about the perimeter of the base. So I'm going to trace that. So this would be 7, 5, 7, and 5. So my perimeter is going to be 7 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5. Or 7 plus 7 plus 5 plus 5. So we've got 7 on both sides and 5 on both sides. And I believe that's going to be 24, but let's just double check. 7 plus 7 plus 5 plus 5 is going to give me 24. So there's my perimeter. I'm going to check it off. Perimeter is going to be 24. What is my height between the bases on this problem? Well, you can see it's highlighted below. From the, between those two bases, we have 5 millimeters. So there's my height. And then I have 2, so I'm going to check that off. I have 2 bases, and what B stands for area of the base. So what is the area of the base? Well, since this is a rectangle, that's going to be a 7 by 5. That is going to give me an area of 35 millimeters squared. So that's going to be 2 times 35. That's the area of that base. And then we're just going to multiply. So 24 times 5 gives me 120. And then, of course, 2 times 35 gives me 70. So what is my total surface area? My surface area is going to give me 190 millimeters squared. And so what I would do at the very beginning is go ahead and acknowledge I didn't do this. I should have because I'm so terrible at remembering to put units. Go ahead and put your units. So we're in millimeters here. That means that surface area is going to be millimeters squared. Volume is going to be millimeters cubed. That way you don't forget. Okay, so while I know that surface area takes a while, the good thing about doing surface area first is that volume has the same variables. So when we say base times height, we've already calculated our base. Our base is right here. We just got it a second ago. So what was our base? 7 times 5 gave me a base of 35, an area of 35 of that base. It was rectangular. And then what was the height between the bases I got earlier? Well, that's right here. It's 5. So we've already found both of the things we need to find the volume of the shape. So what is 35 times 5? That is going to give me 175. So that's going to be millimeters cubed. So I'm just going to put that in this blank right here. 175 millimeters cubed. And I do have my units there. All right, so what is this next shape? Well, this next shape comes to a point. There's not 2 bases, there was 1 base. So it's not a base. It's a base where the top is brought into a point, the top or the bottom. And so that is going to be called a pyramid. It's not a cone because it does not have a circular base. but I know that it's going to be a square pyramid because of those congruence marks. So all of those sides are 6, which means that this is a square pyramid. Naming it first helps. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead at least and put my units. Surface area is going to be centimeters squared in this shape. It's going to be centimeters cubed. That way I don't forget. So let's go get our pyramid formula. Surface area of a pyramid is P times L over 2 plus B. So surface area equals P times L divided by 2 plus the area of the base. So let's find the perimeter of that base first. I always do that in yellow. That would be 6, 4 times around. So that's going to be 6 times 4. So that's going to give me 24. So perimeter is going to be equal to 6, 4 times. So that gives me 24. What is my slanted height? Unfortunately, I don't have it in this picture. So I'm going to have to draw it in. So this is going to be my slanted height. It's the height of the walls. It's leaning. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to draw a piece connecting halfway across the square. So from the H to the slant height is going to give me half of that square, which is going to give me 3. So I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find my slant height. That's going to be H squared plus 3 squared equals my L squared. And that's what we're looking for. Oh, goodness, it does give me my height. There we go. So the height is 4. So what I'm going to do, I don't love the way that makes it look in this picture. Y'all can see I struggle with that. See how it's pointing to that capital H? I'm going to go ahead and move that 4 centimeters over there, and then I'm going to scribble out this 4 centimeters because that tends to confuse me. And so this is going to be 4 squared plus 3 squared equals L squared. And so if we want to find our L squared, we're going to do 4 squared plus 3 squared. That is going to give me 25 for L squared, which means that when I take the square root of 25 of both sides, my slant height is going to give me 5. So L is equal to 5. So now I have my slant height. It's 5. So that is going to be, let's see, my slant height is going to be 24, perimeter is 24 times slant height of 5 divided by 2 plus my area of the base, which of course is going to be 36. Okay, so I got 36 by doing 6 by 6. That's a 6 by 6 square. So 24 times 5 divided by 2 is going to give me 60. So my surface area is going to be equal to 60 plus 36. So surface area is going to be equal to 96. 96 centimeters squared is my surface area. Well, now when I find my volume, what's my volume formula? My volume formula of a pyramid is base times height divided by 3. So base, area of the base, times the height divided by 3. Well, thankfully, we've already found the area of the base. What's the area of the base? Same thing as before. That's a 6 by 6 square, so it's going to be 36. Times the height, which I already have. It's that inside height. The height of the pyramid is going to be 4, capital H, and we're going to divide that by 3. So 36 times 4 divided by 3. That's going to give me 48 centimeters cubed of volume for this square pyramid and 96 centimeters squared of surface area. So let's go to our next problem. This is going to be a prism because it does have 2 bases. We name it by its base, so it is going to be a triangular prism. That is going to help me get the correct formulas. So what is my surface area formula for a triangular prism? Surface area formula for a prism is PH plus 2B. So we're going to copy that down and use this like a checklist. PH plus 2B. So again, just like before, P stands for perimeter. So I'm going to add together the 3 pieces in this triangle of this perimeter. Unfortunately, I don't have that third piece. I don't have the hypotenuse in that right triangle. So I'm going to have to use some Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to put an X here real quick. That's going to be 12 squared plus 10 squared is equal to X squared. And so when I do that, I get 244 is equal to X squared. And so X is going to be equal to the square root of 244. So that's going to help me find my perimeter. Okay. All right, so my perimeter is going to be equal to all of those things added together. And so when I do that, I'm going to get, I can go ahead and type it in, 12 whole number plus 10 whole number plus root 144. If you're going to type in the root 144 before the 12 and the 10, or 244, you need to make sure that you close the parentheses. So that's going to be about 37.6. So my perimeter is going to be 12 plus 10 plus root 244. That is going to give me about 37.6. Now, I'm not going to round until the very, very, very end, so I'm going to retype that in a second, but that is about 37.6. What is my height between those bases? That's going to be 9. And then I have 2 of those bases, so those bases are triangles, and so when you find the area of that triangle, it's going to be base times height divided by 2. So I'm actually going to do that right here. I find my right angle, and that's my base height, and so that's going to be 12 times 10, but I have to remember to divide that by 2. And so when I do that, I'm going to get 60 for each of these bases. So this base has an area of 60. And so again, I'm going to take that number that's in my calculator, about 37.6204. I'm going to go times 9 plus 2 times 60. And that's going to give me about 458.6. Okay? 458.6 centimeters squared for my surface area. Again, because it's surface area, that's always going to be the second power. If you went ahead and rounded that perimeter, if you rounded that perimeter 37.6 and then typed it in, you would get 458.4, and that is totally fine as well. If you want to round that, since that one's a little bit more complicated, that's fine. We like more exact answers when we can, though. Okay? All right, so now we want to find our volume. Well, thankfully for volume, it's just going to be base times height. And I've already calculated that base. What was the area of the base? The area of the base from before was 60. What was the height between the bases? The height between the bases is 9. And so it's just going to be 60 times 9, which I believe is 540. And so my volume is going to be 540. Remember, since it's volume, it's going to be centimeters cubed to the 3rd power. Okay. All right, let's do the cylinder. So this is a cylinder. It's got 2 bases. They're both circles. And then we're going to go grab those formulas. What is the surface area of a cylinder? 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. It's got both on there. It's got circumference times height plus 2 base, but it also goes ahead and fills it in for you. So surface area is going to be equal to circumference, which is 2 pi R, times the height, plus 2 bases, so it's going to be 2 pi R squared because they're both circles. So we do need our radius here. What is my radius going to be if my diameter is 10? My radius is going to be 5. So I'm going to cross out the 10 so I don't accidentally grab it. So that was 10. And so radius is 5. And so we're going to plug in our radius. So it's going to be 2 times pi times 5 times my height, which is going to be 9, plus 2 pi, my radius, squared. And so we're going to go ahead and do each part. So I'm going to simplify this part, and I'm going to type in everything except the pi symbol. So I'm going to do 2 times 5 times 9. 2 times 5 times 9 gives me 90 pi right here. So I've got 90 pi for circumference times height, which is the walls. And now I need to add my 2 bases, which is going to be 50 pi. Whenever you do 2, you'd type in 2 times 5 squared, you'd get 50 pi. So 50 pi and 90 pi, and then you add those together, and you get 140 pi. So my surface area of this cylinder is 140 pi. My units are going to be centimeters squared, so 140 pi centimeters squared, which means that volume is going to be centimeters cubed. Okay. Volume is much easier. Volume is just going to be base times height. Thankfully, I've already calculated the base. We already know that the base is going to be pi r squared, so pi 5 squared, times the height of this cylinder, which we already have on there. That's going to be times 9. So when I type this in, I'm just going to type in 5 squared times 9. 5 squared times 9 is going to give me 225 pi, 225 pi centimeters cubed of volume, and 140 pi centimeters squared of surface area. So doing the surface area first actually does help you. All right, we've got another triangular prism. People tend to struggle with these, so we just need to make sure we pay attention to what we need. Triangular prism, we already said before that the surface area is going to be equal to perimeter times height plus 2 bases. Thankfully, on this problem, it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. If any of these pieces were missing, we would just use Pythagorean theorem. So perimeter is going to be 3 plus 4 plus 5. Of course, we know when we do that, we get 12. So my perimeter is 12. What is my height? My height is going to be the distance between the bases. That's going to be 6. So 12 times 6 plus 2 bases. Well, what shape is the base? The base is a triangle. So when I go to find the area, I need the right angle. So that's going to be 3 times 4 divided by 2. Those are the pieces that are perpendicular. So that's going to be 2 times 3 times 4 is 12 divided by 2 equals 6. So each of these bases is 6 units squared each. So that ends up giving me 72 plus 12. So my surface area is going to be equal to 84. Of course, I know that my units are going to be centimeters squared for surface area and centimeters cubed for volume. So what is the volume of a prism? Volume of a prism is just base times height. We've already calculated our base. Our base was 6 units squared. Our height between these bases was 6. So what is 6 times 6? That is going to give me 36 centimeters cubed of volume. And so what is my last shape? It has a circular base, so it's either going to be a cylinder or a cone. Well, since this only has one base and it comes to a point, it is going to be a cone. So what is my surface area formula for a cone? You go to the top. Surface area of a cone is pi RL plus B, also known as pi r squared. So pi RL plus one base, which is pi r squared. So pi RL plus pi r squared. And so we need two things. We need our radius, which we don't have in this picture so far. That is going to give me a radius of 2 centimeters. So I'm going to cross out the 4. I don't need it. And then we need our slanted height, which we do have. Our slanted height is 6. And so we're going to go pi, surface area equals pi, times my radius, which is 2, times my slant height, which is 6. Then I'm going to add one base, so pi, and it's my radius, which is 2, squared. So again, I'm going to type in these parts. I'm going to say, okay, well, what is 2 times 6? That's going to give me 12 pi for my walls, plus, what about my bases? That's going to give me 4 pi when I type in 2 squared. And so 12 pi plus 4 pi is going to give me a total of 16 pi. What are my units going to be? Centimeters squared. 16 pi centimeters squared is surface area. And then in this problem, centimeters cubed is going to be my volume. So let's go find our volume. Volume is base times height divided by 3. You don't have to memorize that. Remember that it's in our formula list. We've already found the area of the base. That was going to be pi r squared. So pi 2 squared times my height. Now the height I am missing. I need to find my height. So I'm going to go h squared plus 2 squared equals L squared, which is going to be 6. 6 squared. So to type that in your calculator, you're going to go minus 2 squared minus 2 squared. We're using Pythagorean theorem, so you do 6 squared minus 2 squared. 6 squared minus 2 squared gives me gives me 32, and so h is going to be equal to the square root of 32. Root 32. Of course, we're going to leave it like that until we're ready to round at the very, very end, and then we're going to divide by 3. So when we go to type this in, you're going to type in 2 squared times root 32. You're going to click enter, and then you're going to divide that by 3, and that's how many pi's I'm going to have in my answer. So it's going to be 2 squared times square root 32. Click enter. That's 22.624717. I divide that by 3 because this is volume, and that's going to give me about 7.5. 7.5 pi. 7.5 pi centimeters cubed of volume. Okay. If you went ahead and rounded that root 32 to, what would that be? Square root of 32. If you went ahead and typed that in, that would be about 5.7 if you rounded that to the nearest tenth. If you do that, your answer is going to be 7.6 pi instead. But for my class and for my students, we tried to round at the very, very, very end. All right, so I'm going to do a new video for this next page, but we're going to continue on. So finding the surface area and volume, don't forget your units, and make sure, please, 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 I'm wearing a t-shirt tomorrow that says, please show your work. So please show your work so we can give you partial credit.